Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Danny Danae Show. I am Danielle Danae, aka Danny Danae, and I've got a lot to say. But before we get into it, guys, this is my last day in Houston, my last day of the work week. I've been here a whole week. It's been great. I had a great time. I'm excited to get back to Los Angeles. The Four Seasons, amazing hospitality. I don't know why I expected anything less. It's just been a minute since I've been in a hotel, but I can't wait, like I said, to get back home. But unfortunately, this is the last time I have this set up, but hopefully I'll get back to the cool one I had before, not the one in my apartment, but the other setup. So we'll see. We'll see though. But anyway, let's talk about let's bring up the topic that I'm about to talk about today. So the topic is the loud minorities are a big problem. Let's discuss it. So the loud minorities are what I mean by that is it seems like the people the smallest people, the people that are of no importance, significance, pardon me, in their communities, are the ones that are projecting the loudest about their beliefs, what they deem to be true. And it's just a lot of the times these people that are projecting their ideas and opinions are not what the norm is, not anything that should be admired or replicated or mimicked. So I wanted to discuss it because it just seems like that's been a major thing in our communities, in our media. It's the people that I hate to say, like, shouldn't have a voice, that are the loudest with it. So yeah, I wanted to talk about it, give some examples, and we're gonna get into that, right? So like I said, these people are poor examples of people, and they always seem to have the most to say. So an example of that is like maybe like a broke man complaining about gold diggers. I mentioned that example before. The typical broke man is not complaining about women, wanting a man for their money. That's been a thing that's understood, especially by like I said, men with money. It's only the minority of men that are broke, that want to blame all their problems on the world, want to come for women because they can't get any, because they aren't part of the club. They want to complain about it instead of do what they need to do in order to get invited or be accepted. And it's a big old joke. It's a big old joke because men have been providers, like I said, since the beginning of time. So why would you be rah-rahing about a woman saying that she wants a man with money? Now, like I said, it's different when a woman is screaming out, I demand you make this amount of money, and brings nothing to the table. I'm not talking about those women. I'm talking about women that had to have standards. And even if those women are rah-rahing, it's like they would have nothing to say if you had your money up. You don't date those type of women, but you silence them when you do what you need to do as a man. Right? But it's so many of these broke men, pardon me, on these social media apps, on our media period, and like I said, in our communities, our society, that are just screaming at about how women are they're so fixated on how much a man makes, when that's not the case of most women. Most good women. And like I said, there's a lot of messed up women out there. There's a lot of women that um, speak about this topic all the time, and say, I want a man that makes six figures, and are, not the type of woman to deserve it. Absolutely. My point is, it's the people that can't even relate to the things they're saying. Like the people that, remember, I made a video the other day. I was like, if you can't relate, just say that. It's the people that, don't just make the realization that they're not what they really deep inside want to be, and just do what they have to do to become the person they want to be. Instead, they're on, like I said, they're just complaining. They're the victim. And guys, you watch me long enough. I hate people who have victim mentalities. I can't stand them. We live literally in the land of opportunity. There's no reason why anybody isn't where they are where they want to be. Racism is still existing in certain parts of the world, absolutely, but it's not as prevalent as it was 100 years ago. We have the opportunities to get what we want to do, and I bring up racism because that's a thing that my people tend to use an excuse to not get to where they want to be at. So no, we have every opportunity to do what we have to do. We have all the research, we have all the knowledge, we have literally Google on our phones. I've made this point a million times as well. So yeah, so one example. That's the one example. Broke men complaining about gold diggers. That's the loud minority. There aren't a lot of broke men complaining about gold diggers. It's just this small group of men that, are given a platform that are, now complain about it every chance they get because, other men are some other few amounts of men are complaining with them. So it puts a little battery in their back to continue to do so. But it's a joke, and men shouldn't do that. And like I said, it's a loud minority. Most broke men are out there trying to get their paper up because they know it's not cute to be broke. It's not cute for anyone to be broke. Even women don't like being broke. But men are naturally fighters. They're naturally wanting to provide, even if they can't. So they're actually every day hustling in order to get more money up. They're looking for a second job. They're looking for a higher paying job every second they get. So yeah, one example. Next example, another example. Baby mamas complaining about men not being SHIT. I'm trying not to cuss anymore, guys. It's not cute. I think, sometimes it might be necessary, but if it's not, I'm like, I need to stop saying it. So that cussing and also saying yo, trying to get that completely out of my vocabulary. But yes, back to the point. Baby mama's talking crap about men. It seems like it's so much. You see it a lot in Hollywood, especially, these women's, and they have multiple baby daddies. It's like, they can't all be the problem. All right. You gotta take some responsibility for having a kid with someone you deem to be not SHIT. Or were they initially? It's funny, like when you lay down with them, were they then good enough? And then all of a sudden when he says he doesn't want to be with you anymore, now he's not SHIT. It doesn't make any sense. It's very questionable. And it's only baby mamas. It's only women who can't get men that complain about men. And that is a small amount of women. It's growing more and more in our community, especially in the Black community, I'm sad to say. But for most women, that, are in a fortunate situation where they become a baby mama. And let me make this distinction right here. A baby mama is different from a widow or, a wife. Obviously, they're two different things, right? Or a child's mother. Like, people like to play with words. Like, oh no, she has a child and she's a mother, so it's the same thing as baby mama. No, a baby mama is somebody that never had the commitment to begin with. Right. Now, if the father was in the picture, like I said, deceased, or they went through a divorce, that's different than a baby mama who had no commitments prior and is just, having someone's kid that, they slept with one night and irresponsibly and had a kid. Completely different things, right? So most women that end up, like I said, in that unfortunate situation know they have some fault in that. And they just, accept it, move on, raise their kid the best they can and move on. But it's this, like I said, again, loud. It's the loud minority, the small groups of women that get together and like, oh, actually, and then come together and want to blame men for all their problems. That are the loudest on the mics, that are the ones put out in our mainstream medias. It's a big joke. It's a big joke. You are the problem. You are the problem. I'm sorry. Because I hate when women try to put the point out there like you can't, choose what happens to you in life. True, but you can choose decisions you make in life in order to get the outcomes that happen in life. And you chose to sleep with that man without any commitment, without a condom, and you have to deal with those consequences of those actions, right? Um, and most women know that. Most women know that. They know they were irresponsible. They handle what they have to do moving forward. But it's just this small group of people that make it seem like, it's a man's fault that he didn't want, to commit when he never said he wanted to commit in the beginning. Yes, it takes two to raise a kid, but the accountability also has to be on both ends. And it seems like men are more so taking accountability for, you know, um, having a kid more than women are. Men aren't out here screaming women ain't crap. Or if it is, it's the loud minority. It's not a lot of things I'm saying is for men and women. These are loud minorities because the that are complaining about each one not being SHIT. But I'm living life every day, and I notice like you see couples walking hand in hand all together, men and women loving on each other, raising their kids, enjoying spending time with their kids. And you can tell some of them, don't have a ring. They're not married, but they come together for the kids and they save face, and make it work because that's what family is about. You put your feelings aside and do what's necessary in order for the better good, the better for your kids, for everybody. That's what the majority of people are doing. But it's like mainstream media and, like I said, our even our government, because that's really what's controlling our media spaces. They want us to see dysfunction. They want us to lack accountability. They want us to complain and be victims because, like I said in my other videos, I make this point repeatedly. They want us to be dependent on them. And being a victim, being not a decent human being, all that will eventually have you going back to rely on them for things, government assistance, all these things, financial assistance. When I say that, so yeah, they put this out and make it seem like that's the norm when it's not. Another example: physically abusive men who are mentally abusive to women. And like I said, a lot of these points go back and forth, but I feel like I'm speaking to these points specifically because it seems like, in my view, this is more as what's happening. And yeah, it seems like, the men that are physically abusive and verbally abusive are mentally abusive in these spaces like Clubhouse, these audio apps I tell you that I'm on all the time, on Clubhouse, on even Chatter even. And yeah, and it's so unfortunate for me, and I have to speak on it because so many young people are starting to be online all the time. Well, they have been for a little while, but it's more and more each year, right? As technology develops, and when they see a certain example of how men are, and men and women, pardon me, but I'm specifically speaking about these physically abusive men speaking in these spaces. They now have this blueprint. They think they're getting a blueprint on how men are in real life. So they go into relationships thinking that men are abusive, verbally and mentally. And if it happens physically, it's like, hey, this is just how men are. Like I said, it's just, it was like, it makes sense. Well, if they're mentally and verbally abusive, it makes sense for them to be physically abusive. And then it just allows that behavior and it becomes a pattern for their kids and then their kids. And then, and it's a problem. It needs to be nipped in the bud. In the butt. Is it nipped in the butt or nipped in the bud? I always say nipped in the bud, but I think it's nipped in the butt. You guys let me know in the comments. But anyway, it needs to stop is my point. And we need to call it out for what it is, because there's not a bunch of physically abusive men out there. There's men that, can be. It's so interesting. I was in a situation with my ex, and I was working alongside him, and I went behind him to give him a hug, and we were working, and I was his assistant, and we were working in an event where it was all men at the event. I was the only woman, and I was just helping him out, right? And I went behind him. I came up to him. He didn't know it was me. And I grabbed his waist, like all soft, like a woman would. But he turned around so quickly because he thought it was a man, right? He didn't know it was me. So he turned around, and I remember looking at the look on his face, and he looked like he was about to rip me to shreds. It was like, it was kind of scary, but I told him it was actually very sexy for me, because it's sexy for women to see like men are capable of fighting, but only do so when necessary, right? If you're always fighting in every little thing, then it becomes unattractive because it shows you lack self-control. But my point is, men need to have self-discipline. They need to know when to use it, when not to. And when a man is physically abusive in all aspects and is emotionally abusive on an app toward other men, other women, it's a sign of weakness. It takes a lot of self-control, a lot of self-discipline to, only react the way you need to in certain situations, and not especially, and it's never okay to act out on an app to the point where you're degrading women and, speaking out threats to people you don't know. It's never a point in time where you need to do that. So it needs to be called out. But like I said, it's a small group of men that are heavy in these spaces, heavy on these apps, because and they're heavy on these apps speaking about it because they're not able to speak about the type of things they want to in person, because like a physically abusive man, if he was to speak to another man who was capable of being physically abusive back, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't speak crazy to a man that could beat him up. It's only on this app and that he's able to get away with it. And it's like, oh, if they see they can get away with something, they're gonna try it. Right. And the point is, these are the loud minorities. Now, the majority of men that are great men, that are real men, aren't on these apps all day. It's like, why aren't these apps? You can beg the question, why aren't these men of this status, the men that are good men on these apps, clapping back to them? The men I'm speaking about, that if they were to see in person, they would go running the other way. It's because it's the majority of good men, the quiet majorities, are working. They don't have time to be on these apps. They're living their best lives with their families. They're happy. It's like, why go on a space that's toxic when their lives are so great, in real life? And it's like, why do so? And I get it. Trust me, my life is great. I love that I get to travel the world doing what I love, speaking to people, modeling. It's great, but I make the choice to still speak on my podcast and speak in these spaces because I want change to happen. But I could easily dismiss myself and be like, you know what? I'm just going to be with the quiet minority and remove myself. But I want change to happen. And I'm willing to be the fall guy in order to wake people up to this BS. And yeah, but that's what they are. They're the quiet majorities. If you're asking the question, and it's a valid question, asking where these quiet majorities are, they're at home. They're at home, loving on their families, making their money, doing their thing. But we got to talk about these loud minorities because, like I said, they're a problem. They're a big problem, and I'm calling it out. So physically abusive men being mentally abusive, one, and then mentally abusive women being verbally abusive. It's so crazy. I will see so many women just calling other women the B word and hoes and women they don't know, calling out their name, being mad disrespectful. Mad disrespectful. I've been called out my name so many times. Been called, a B, a pick me, all these things. And it's like, dang. But once you get to the level of, maturity to realize, people only typically use those type of words when they don't have anything else to say, and like I said, are very emotionally unintelligent and just call people these words because they really actually feel that way about themselves. But to call it out on someone else, a complete stranger, makes them feel better about themselves inside. I don't know, because they're not alone. Like I said a million times, misery loves company. But like I said, there's women that aren't at the same level as me, and I don't want the young women, like I said, in these media apps, on these media apps, in these media spaces, to get caught up in women being disrespectful to them, or accept it. And also to not respond in a way that's all just as disrespectful or abusive back. There's a way to address these type of people, and it's not meeting fire with fire. It's being putting water on the fire. So yeah, there's a way to do that. That's a whole nother segment. But yeah, we got to call it out. There's so many mentally abusive women that play games with men and play games with women and get away with it, and it's not okay. It's not okay. It's not cute. If you're one of those women that are passively aggressive or aggressive, you need to nip that in the bud or butt, whichever one it is. That's what you need to do, because you're not going to get anywhere, not anywhere of value, continuing to be that type of woman, that type of person. So, like I said, it's not a lot of women. It's just heavy. It's just heavy in these certain spaces. Because most women know how to talk. They're not out here. Maybe there's a lot of emotionally unintelligent women, right? But they're not disrespected. They're not intentionally going to spaces, calling people out their names, threatening people. They're just them. They're in their small circles, you know. But to take those small circles and now put them on a major platform is a problem. That's what makes it loud. That's what makes it seem like the norm. And I'm here to tell you it's not. And if it was the norm, it's not cute. Get yourself out of circles like that. If you witness abusive, mentally, physically, emotionally abusive behavior, get yourself out of that situation and become better. Become a winner. Okay. And lastly, my last example is our single childless women speaking on marriage. Loud minority. It's like it's crazy. You see, and not just marriage, like I said childless, single and childless, or married and childless, whatever. It seems like they just want so much control of, women's bodies. It's so crazy that, these women that are lonely and have cats and all this don't want other. They're so pro-abortion, and it's like, why are you so pro-abortion when it's like you don't want kids? You're not trying to have kids. You're like, I want the right to do right. You want the right to do with your body? Cool. If you don't want kids, cool. But why are you hounding people who do want kids? Why are you hounding people that are married just because you're single? That's insane. Just because you're miserable and single, you want, like, misery wants company. It's like, hey, I get it. But it's not, just because I understand where the craziness comes from doesn't make it okay. People hounding people like Nara Smith, for cooking for her family. People hounding that woman, her Instagram's Ballerina Farm, for cooking for her husband and having a bunch of kids. It's like, why are you mad about that? Why are you mad at people, living their best life and calling them oppressed and, you know, um, um, telling them that they're making the ultimate sacrifice, like they can't be happy, making sacrifices and doing stuff for their family. Are you freaking insane? That's how life is. Marriage is about sacrifice. When you're all about yourself, you're miserable because God didn't design us to be all by ourselves and to just worry about ourselves. We're supposed to worry about everyone. They designed men to worry about everyone before themselves. And women are saying we should worry about our husbands and our children before ourselves. But it's the small, miserable women that get in groups. Like there's the single, childless women that get in these groups and make TikTok videos and Instagram reels speaking on how great it is to be single and childless. And it's like, no, you're miserable, babe. I know you are. I know you are. You gotta be. You gotta be miserable. And you gotta be not doing anything of substance in your life. Because if you did, you wouldn't have the time to sit around and be complaining about it. Could sit around and be gloating about your life. If you're just happy, people that are really happy just are happy. They don't have to tell people how happy they are. That's a good indicator how you know when somebody isn't really happy. If they have to tell you it and repeatedly tell you it, odds are they're probably not really happy. Oh, I said that was my last point, but I actually have a couple more. These are more political points. I think those are my points just in the everyday lives in society. But liberals, it's crazy. I live in the most liberal, left-leaning state, right? California, right? And it's so funny. There's so many liberals who are for defunding the police. I made an episode talking about how people are screaming defund the police, and all of them will tell you they're liberals. And I just think that's crazy because liberals are for society. They're for society. They want us to be socially balanced. And they're for things like welfare. And I'm like, well, how are you for welfare and for the government, but you're against police? People that enforce or make sure people follow the laws and arrest people when they break them. Why are you against that? Why do you want to defund police? Insane. But it's a small group of liberals. It's not most liberals. Because like I said, I know a lot of liberals. They're all in the state of California, right? And most of them, just go about their business and they believe their liberal beliefs and, go about their day. They actually, don't mind the police. They don't want police killing innocent black men and killing black men, pardon me, who they deem to be innocent. But other than that, they don't hate the police. They're not out here screaming. They're not out here protesting. They're just living their lives. But it's those 10 people that get on a platform. It's those small people that go out and walk the streets of downtown Los Angeles that get the most attention because they're making the most noise and they need to be silenced. And last point, this is solely an opinion of mine, but I believe it to be very true. People that hate Trump, but then claim they want a leader that's best for our country. Trump is I hate to tell you guys, but Trump is who's best for our country. Do I think he's the best person in the world for the job? No. But out of our options, out of the few options we have, he's the best. And it's too many loud people over here screaming out their hate for Trump. A lot of them not even knowing why they hate Trump. But also saying they trust the government. They want a leader that's going to stand for us and do what needs to be done and won't be a puppet. But wants to vote for the ultimate puppet, Kamala Harris. It is just mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling. These people are so in the media. They got other people hating Trump for no reason. And it's crazy. And they look crazy in these interviews. It's so funny. I just watched on TikTok a guy, he was going around asking were people for Trump or Kamala. And almost all of them said Trump. I think it was 9 out of 10. I think one person said Kamala. And that's what's really happening in the world. But the media will have you believing, these loud minorities will have you believing that Trump is bad, that people don't want Trump, that, Trump's a racist. Trump is all these things that would be detrimental to our country if he were to get in office again. And it's just like, what? No, this is a small group of people that believe this. Most people don't believe this, and simply because it's not true. You actually did your research. You actually listened to the full conversation or interviews that Donald Trump have. You'd be like, and are able to get out your feelings and just look at it from an unbiased perspective. You would see that you're crazy, you're wrong, and you're brainwashed by these loud minorities, right? So yeah, man, I think that, these small circles, they got loud mics, and we got to turn them off. We got to turn them down a little bit, because what in the world? They're just spewing out lies. They're spewing out things that not most people believe to be true. And it's BS. It's BS. I don't know what other way to put it. These are back of the line people that you would not look twice at. Just another point. These loud minorities are people you would have no respect for otherwise if they didn't have a mic. And they know that. In their real lives, they are nobody, but they get a mic on a app. They get, a video camera put on them for the gram or for YouTube or whatever. And they go viral. And they get you to believe nonsense. It's the back of the line people that are pushed in the forefront in media spaces. And we got to push them back to the back. We got to push them to the back. What they are in real life should dictate how they are on apps. And that's all I have to say about that. All right, guys, I have to catch a flight in a few hours. I will be back in LA soon, and I immediately got to work when I get back. But I'm always going to keep up with my podcast because I care about you guys, and a lot of you care about me. So I appreciate it. I love you guys. If you like this video, please like the video. Please also subscribe if you haven't already, and comment always. I always want to hear your thoughts. You guys know this already. All right. It's so funny. I have a Hilton pen staying in the in the Four Seasons. It was in my purse. I didn't even think twice about it. But I thought it was so funny. Because this iPad, I don't know if you can see, it says Four Seasons on it, and then the Hilton. But anyway, all right, guys, I love you guys, like I said, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay. All right. Have a fantastic day. Bye.